I don't think there's ever been a better time in Nigeria's economic history to extol the potential benefits of harnessing our renewable energy resources. Nigeria is blessed with adequate sources, sustainable energy sources such as constant sunlight, adequate wind pressure, the generation of significant biowaste, tidal waves in coastal areas, amongst others. We know the stats. 85 million Nigerians are without access to grid electricity. That's about 43% of the country's population. So what exactly is the future potential of the renewable energy sector? And who are the local and regional champions that will help spur this growth in alternative energy? Well, joining me is one such champion. I have Ayo Ademilua. He is the president of the Renewable Energy Association of Nigeria, as well as the CEO of A4T, I believe A4T Power Solutions. So great to have you with us on the show.
Thank you so
Ayo.
much.
So I guess the big question is, how big is this market? What is the potential of clean energy in Nigeria?
In all honesty, I think coming from 43%, I think we see it more as 55% that are off-grid by the global standard of being off-grid. And the global standard of being off-grid is defined as if you're not having 4 hours daily.
4 hours?
Yeah.
It seems quite low for a standard.
Yeah, but because that's, even that 4 hours right now, we have a lot of places in Nigeria that are not having it right now in terms of, so your time has been off-grid. So that's why we have like 55% of the population that is off-grid. And if we try to look at it from most reasonable numbers that we have right now for population, we'll be looking at about 110 million.
Yeah.
So now you look at that as the market that we have, which cuts across both the towns, the peri-urbans, the urbans, the villages, and also, most importantly, the productive part of our country, which is the commercial and industrial part. So it's a very huge market.
It's a huge market. So which source of energy is particularly prominent as an alternative energy source?
Okay, so straight is we have the large part of our renewables being contributed by hydro right now in Nigeria and followed by solar. But one part that we have not really been able to very tap well is the biomass part. Now, in the research and records that we have for Sub-Saharan Africa, mostly Nigeria, we have a very huge deposit of biomass that we need to really find a way to tap into. So in the next few years that we'll see, that will be coming based on the energy transition plan in the mix, from our side at the Renewable Energy Association, we're trying to see how we can bring all this into the mix.
Yeah. So, we've been talking about solar energy and alternative energy for quite a while.
Yeah.
And you often hear investors sometimes say that there's not enough scalable investments to make in that sector. But you run an alternative energy company. You're part of an association with many alternative and clean energy entrepreneurs. Yeah. How are they able to attract funding?
Okay, so great. The truth about it is that right now, because of the climate change issues that we have in the world, there are lots of fundings that are available globally. And also in Nigeria, we're already seeing some of our local banks, some of our local funding and impact funding organizations, like ARM, like CHD, Chapel Hill. We have the NSIA, we have of course, NIDF trying to look at it also. So we have some of our local funds and infrastructural funds that are looking into the renewable energy. So in REN, we are more than 200 members right now, and a lot are still joining. And what's happening is because most of the projects that we are having in Nigeria right now, everybody knows that it is the need for what? People don't have the power. We're having a problem with the centralized model that we're currently running. So the government has been doing a lot to push policies for decentralized renewable energy and decentralized generation and distribution of power. Of course, it started with the Electricity Reform Act of 2005, and of course they moved it on by having the Nigeria Renewable Energy and Energy Access Act of Policy of 2015. So everything is riding on us trying to find a way to decentralize our generation and distribution. So the global market is also seeing that as a very important opportunity. So we're having influx of some funds. We have Olon doing greatly, and we have many people and many impact funders trying to come in right now.
Do you think the awareness is strong here? Because if you look at the statistics, according to the NBS, Nigerians paid an average of 801 naira per litre for diesel, which marked a 215% increase from the 254 per litre in the previous year. That surely is the strong business and commercial case for switching to renewable energy. But we still have so many Nigerians who are off-grid with petrol or diesel generators. Is the information not getting round? Is it a switching cost? Is it the cost of acquisition of solar energy equipment? What exactly is a barrier to the market?
Okay, so I'll say it's a bit of some on the spot and some on that part. So I'm going to start with the fact that the cost of acquisition is a very, very important point that's making people not to be able to acquire. In terms of information, I think right now we have about 30 to 40% awareness. I'll put it that way. About 30 to 40% awareness, but we have a strong barrier of that acquisition. And to break that barrier of acquisition, we need to be able to get funds that have the right cost and have the right tenor, so that we can also allow our people to democratize this energy access in a way that they can pay for it the same way they are paying for their PMS. So you need to have an average barber who runs on the 4 to 6 liters per day. And all he does is that he has his 4 liters multiplied by maybe 250 now, 1,500 per day. Once he has that, he goes to buy that. He comes back. You want to have him to switch to solar, he needs to pay some huge money before he can begin to run. So if we have models, if we have our fundings that can accommodate models that allows us to distill to such kind of daily spending by them, we will have a lot of scale. And also we are planning at RIEN to do what we call a roadshow this year with support of our partners over the next 24 months. We're going to be going around the 36 states because we know that one of the problems we have is we need to grow the structure of the developers and the stakeholders and players that are in the field so that it can support. We're having concentration at some parts of the country, and it's not allowing us to have scale on the other parts of the country. So we see that the solution to it is to go to those states and activate developers that are there.
So looking across the map of Nigeria, which parts of the country do you see huge demand and offtake for solar energy, particularly off-grid solar energy?
Unfortunately, there is no particular path. Everybody all around the map of Nigeria has this need. But I think right now, awareness in Southwest towards the North Central and a little bit of the Northwest, is more than what we have in the South, Southeast, and also the Northeast, So that's the way it's skewed right now. But in terms of calls, in terms of demand, in terms of people yearning to have it, we have it all over Nigeria. That's why the market is so huge and large. And right now, the best way to go about it for us is to try and see how we can grow capacity of our members to be able to function across all those states.
Yeah. And when you look at your typical generator, like the one we have in our homes, you have an entire network of operations and maintenance. You can easily source spare parts and equipment. What does the government actually need to do to incentivize perhaps even the local manufacturer of solar equipment components within Nigeria? Can we even hope to have a competitive advantage in manufacture?
Oh, yes. So from our association, we have our members who are currently manufacturing, assembling in Nigeria. We have Oxano Solar in Lagos. We also have Blue Camel doing things, in Kaduna. So what we're looking at is the things that we need are the things that the incentives and the waivers that we already have in the Nigeria Renewable Energy and Energy Access Policy of 2015. The problem that we have is that they have not been implemented. We have waivers on duties, import duties. We have incentives, for development in the rural areas and peri-urban. All of them are stated in these policies, and we need them to be, to be implemented. We need to have, find a way to implement what we call carbon tax. We need to find a way to implement reduction in import duties for this equipment.
The carbon tax will be taxing those who emit carbon emissions, who are using dirtier sources of energy.
Yeah. So we need to have the carbon tax. So from the carbon tax, we begin to subsidize people who are currently using, what we call the risk mitigant under the climate change regime, solar. So the government can get revenue from the carbon tax and use this to ease off the acquisition of, solar and biomass and all those things.
I mean, the carbon tax is an interesting idea. In this market, it might be a tough one to push, but very, very radical idea. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Really interesting insights there on the renewable energy outlook for Nigeria. Well,